last topic.
Yep.
This one goes to Nick. Give me a little bit of a lightning round because we are pinched up against time. We have a little bit of time though.
We have a little time.
We're gonna need some setup time. Keep that in mind.
Yeah. So we'll go about 10 minutes on this one. I think that's appropriate.
This topic is our Patreon topic. It was submitted to us by Andrew Bramble on Patreon. Is that correct, Tim?
Yes.
You gathered the topic for me. Remember, if you want to follow us on Patreon, you go to patreon.com/kindoffunny, and you can see how you can support us there and get some of your topics on the show. Like Andrew Bramble did, he said, my topic for the show is, what are some of your first childhood crushes? Basically, childhood crushes. Also, just wondering if you want me to change my pledge. No, we don't need that information. But childhood crushes. Let's talk about those.
I got a story. I got a good story for this. So obviously, we've talked about this before. The Pink Ranger. She was a childhood crush of mine.
Becky Joanne Johnson, right?
Nope, Amy Jo Johnson.
Amy Jo Johnson.
No, shout out to Becky though. And then on the other side, we had Jessica Alba in Idle Hands, which was just a formative moment in my life.
That wasn't a crush so much as a fucking
Well, that was the moment I
epiphany.
realized what my penis was.
Yes.
But childhood crushes. I feel like, we had our crushes on these fictional characters or actresses. But for me, my first real childhood crush of a girl that I actually knew. It's a funny story. So my core group of middle school friends, this dude Curran and this other dude Vincent, and this other guy Brandon, we to this day are like very close friends. And when the first reason we met was in our 7th grade science class. We had to make volcanoes because remember, we all had to do that. So we made them out of clay, had to put the vinegar and all that shit, and it would make stuff happen. So we had a sleepover over at my friend Vincent's house, and we went over and we're all chilling. And it's a sleepover, as we went over a couple weeks ago, when you're supposed to go to sleep and everyone's like, "Hey, are you still awake?" So we stayed up all night talking. And
hey, can I come sleep in your sleeping bag with you?
No, that's not what was said.
I want to
that isn't what was said at all.
And then someone comes to the room and he's like, "It's fine, Tim. What are you? It's getting too warm in that sleeping bag."
Oh my god! No,
open
no,
up a little bit and show me your thighs.
That did not happen. But what did happen was the first time I ever had the conversation, "Who do you like?"
Right.
And we kind of just went around this fucking circle of, "Who do you like?" "Oh, I like this girl. I like this girl." And I was just like, "Oh fuck, I'm so not prepared for this. What does that even mean? I don't like anybody." And they all had their people that they named, and they were kind of obvious people at this point where I was like, "Oh, I don't know those girls personally, but they're attractive, so I get that." And then they came to me, and they all chose different people. So when they're like, "Oh, so who do you like, Tim?" And I'm just like, "Pamela." Just threw a name out there.
Yeah.
Some girl that was in my band class. And I'm just like, "Pamela, that's the girl." And they're like, "Oh, yeah, she's cute." I'm like, yeah, she is. I like her. And I'm just totally playing along with this. And they're playing along too, because keep in mind, they're fucking dipshits too.
Right.
They know what the fuck they're doing. But I thought they were cooler than me. And I wanted to be cool with these guys, because they were already friends. I was new to this whole thing. So then they're like, "You need to tell her you like her. That's how this works." And I'm like, "All right." And they're like, "Tell her on Monday." I'm like, "All right, that sounds like a plan. You got to tell her you like her. You got to give her a rose." I'm like,
dude, this. You're like, first of all, now we're getting into, this is a financial commitment that I can't commit to.
Well, no,
roses are expensive.
No, hold on, exactly. Okay. Roses. I'm like, "Where do I get a rose?" And they're like, "Oh, there's a flower store up on Union." And I'm like, "All right, how much are they?" And they're like, "Oh, you can get a single rose. You need to get it with baby's breath." I'm like, "What the fuck is baby's breath?" Yeah. There's these little bubbles that go on this shit. And I'm like, "Damn." They're like, "No, we always do this. This is how you tell a girl you like her." And I'm like, "All right, I'll do this shit." And they're like, "What, do you not want to get?" I'm like, "I can't get the rose before I go to school on Monday. This is the whole thing." They're like, "Oh, do you have a backyard?" I'm like, "Yeah." "Do you have roses?" I'm like, "Yeah, I think my mom has some roses." They're like, "Just cut the rose." And then my friend Vincent's like, "Yeah, but it needs to be wrapped. You need to have it in a wrapper of some sort." And I'm like, Jesus. "All right." And then Curran's like, "Do you have aluminum foil?"
Yeah. Good old Curran.
I was like, "Yeah, I do." So I fucking get this rose. I snip a goddamn rose from my backyard. I wrap that shit in aluminum foil, and I bring it to school on Monday. And I go to Curran and Vince, and I'm like, "Is this it?" And they're like, "Oh, fucking nailed it." And they weren't fucking with me. They legitimately were like, "Oh, you got this, bro." And they're like, "Go up to her, go tell her you like her, give her the rose." Walk up to Pamela, surrounded by all of her friends. They're like, "Hey, Pamela, I like you." Give her the rose. It did not end well.
Yeah,
it ended so fucking poorly. And but to be fair, she was such a bitch about it.
What did she do?
She was so mean to me. She was so did not think it was funny, did not take it nicely, and for the next couple years was just a total asshole to me. And me and one of her her very close friends ended up kind of getting together. She caused so much problems for us. It was a bad thing. We ended up going to high school together, and then it was just like always a war between us. Then we ended up going to college together, and she like warmed up. She's Tim's actually kind of cool. So then we've made up since. But yeah, that was
definitely try to have sex with her now.
No.
100%.
That
Throw
was
Alfredo at her. And
Episode
then
69.
It's funny. Alfredo knows her because they went to high school together. But that was definitely my childhood crush story.
I have a couple, which I'll tell very fast. One was I was in love with this girl. I don't know if we're allowed to say names of people we're in love with, but it's not really disparaging.
Just first name is okay, I think.
Yeah, I was in love with this. Well, I was in love with this girl in 6th grade, and we went to the same. Jesus, what is that school? I guess we were in the same class in no, not middle school. It's grammar school. That's 1 through 6, right? Elementary school. That's what I'm looking for. Thank you. And we went to the same school, and she was like, "You're really cool. I really like you. You'll be my boyfriend, right?" And I was like, "Oh, that's exciting." During the summer between 6th grade and 7th grade, when we were going to go to junior high, we'd spent time together. She lived right up the street from me, so it was like I could go over whenever. We would like walk around a little bit and this and that. And I think we got really close. If not, she wasn't my first kiss, but she was like my second kiss. And she was the kiss that I was like, "Oh my god, I want this to happen for the rest of my life. Like this is the kiss." And it was one of those situations where you just couldn't sleep. Everything filled your mind with her. Like anytime you thought about anything, it was about her. You would like fantasize. Any sort of movie you saw, you're like, I'm watching Star Wars. She could totally be Princess Leia. Oh, totally be Han Solo, or some combination of Han Solo and the better parts of Luke, because Luke was kind of a pussy. Then 7th grade came around, right? And I had to take pre-algebra in summer school. And this is when she discovered that there was a whole other group of guys in the world that were not me. One of whom was this little kid that used to play soccer. He was kind of a douchey little kid, but he was cool with me. Like I liked him, and she just started liking him instead. Then she also started liking this blonde kid, who was like, I was like, wow, this girl's like totally into all these other guys. But specifically, she started liking this. I'm sorry, she liked this blonde kid first, who for some reason she decided would be fun to pit against me. And like started talking all sorts of shit, and I was like, "What's going on? I don't understand. What's happening? Why is this guy?" And she's like, "Well, he wants to kick your ass." And I was like, I don't want to fight anyone. I'm not a fighter. I'm not even a thinker. I'm just more of like a sitter. I sit and watch movies. That's what I do. Like if he's down for that, I'll fuck him up. But this is not going to happen, right? And so he ended up having some friends, and we would talk shit, and we had these weird like. They started dating, and I was like, wow, I'm broken up with. This is the first time I've discovered heartbreak. This is terrible. And I lost her to this guy who's I don't even know him, but he seems like a nice guy, but he's kind of an asshole to me for no reason. And then after summer school, she broke up with him and started dating the guy that was a soccer player. That's how it went. And we had class together, me and this guy Stu. And he sat down, and I sat down, and we sat next to each other. I think it was actually Mrs. Wiley's class again, where I met Ryan. And he kind of looked over me, and he's like, "Hey," and I'm like, "Hey," and he's like, "Yeah, sorry about all that shit." And I was like, no worries. And we have been best friends ever since. Literally, he has been one of my best friends. We still see each other. He was at my bachelor party.
Yeah.
You met Big Stu.
Yeah.
And he and my buddy Ty. And that was just one of those situations where I was like, wow, that crush went from awesome to terrible to me meeting one of my best friends that'll be my best friend for the rest of my life.
There you go.
Yeah.
For me, it was in middle school. I liked this girl. She liked me. Then we became boyfriend and girlfriend. And then we didn't really know how relationships were supposed to go. So we would sit on the phone with just silence for hours. And then I was like, yeah, kind of like this other girl. So broke up with her and then moved on. That was pretty much
that was back in the day when Alfredo would, this isn't even a joke, he would walk around with his iPod or MP3, I don't even remember the fuck. CD player. It was a CD player with his headphones, like earbuds draping over his ears. They wouldn't even be in his ears, blasting Act of Fool, the
So
Too
good.
Fast, Too Furious, Ludacris song.
Yeah.
And he'd be fucking blasted that shit.
Blasted, just walking to class.
I love that.
Those are cool times.
Yeah, I mean, I had crushes on various girls throughout growing up. I will say that my first crush that, like you were saying, like where you're like, oh, I don't like girls, I like girls, was Tara Reid.
Man,
specifically
American Pie?
specifically Big Lebowski. And,
yeah.
And then she was like extraordinary in American Pie though.
She was so hot. She went so off the deep end though.
She really did, but that bothers my girlfriend so much. That like I fucking love Tara Reid. And like it's not the Tara Reid now, it's like the Tara Reid back then, because I'm like, you have to understand, that was my chick.
Because you had a chance. If you'd have gone to Comic-Con last year, Tara Reid came to IGN's Comic-Con party.
I would have lost my
mind. She
mind.
hung out
right by
with Tara, and it was disaster.
I would have fainted probably. Because like I loved her so much, and it was so disappointing to watch like her downfall, you know. And I feel like people are very mean to her, but like whatever. I don't know her, but
Well, she got a really bad stomach job, and that did not help.
Paradise.
Yeah,
Remember Paradise?
Man, it was she was a combination of, you know, the crazy that gets let out when you become a celebrity, and some bad plastic surgery, and that was actually kind of the start of the internet culture, right? Where you think about that time period, that's when like internet commenters and the internet came to maturity, in that you're like, I don't like this person based purely off of the information that I have at hand. I'm gonna blast this person, and that's what happened. I think she went a little cray cray with that. Unfortunately, it never came back, and sadly, her career suffered. And she decided not to do any of the sequels to.
She was in the last one because Greg and I went to American Reunion.
Yeah,
which I went to the movie theater to see.
She got too big for American Pie.
I saw the very first showing of American Reunion with Greg.
I did too.
Did you go? Were you with us?
Not with you guys.
Oh, okay. I was very into it because that was my seminal kind of teen movie.
Dude, that movie was, by the way, that movie was on the other day, and I started watching it, and my wife's like, "Are you really watching this?" And I'm like, "This movie's funny."
Yeah, no, American Pie. I think all four of them are really funny. Yeah. And not the Bandcamp ones.
Spin-offs are still kind of funny.
Although I love how Eugene Levy will just do anything.
Yeah. Good for him.
Good for him.
He's always been, dude. If you go back and look at his career, he has had a vast career in movies. He's in everything, for Christ's sake. He's in like every like movie from the late 80s on. I swear to God, he's in there somewhere. You can spot him in a million movies.
So that's it for Game Over Greggy Show, episode 69.
We're mature.
Greg will be back for the next episode 70. We appreciate you guys watching and supporting us on Patreon. If you don't, that's okay. You can listen to us and watch us for free. We love you either way. I'm Colin. That's Tim, Alfredo, and Nick. We'll see you guys next time. Until then, au revoir.